There's no holiday in Tokyo today. What are we supposed to
No
celebrate?
holiday. I don't know. Celebrate life.
Ah.
Live, laugh, love.
Ew. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Adcast, the podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your ranked king, Renu.
And I'm your wholesome family robot road trip, Soup, the whole thing.
This week, AD stands for Absolute Territory because we'll be wrapping up the fall 2021 season. But before we get into that, what have we been up to?
That's a good question. Since the last time that we got together to record, I really have not been up too much. I've just been doing work. I've just been busy, that's all.
I think you and I are in the same boat, because that's basically what I've been up to as well.
Okay, all right. That's, yep. Like, I think, since the start of the new year, I have been going, very ham on making sure, all my stuff is in order. Like, I just feel like I'm doing so much right now. Once I send in these projects, I definitely need to like take a step back and just be like, okay, time to breathe.
I'm also getting the distinct feeling that you're rather overwhelmed right now. I was thinking, like, I think sometime yesterday or the day before, I was like, I should probably have an intervention with Soupy and tell them to quit taking on new things for a while.
Yeah, I really do not need more responsibilities right now. I have 3 projects, like 3 freelancing projects that wrap at the end of the month, which I guess is when you're listening to this. So
hopefully you'll be done by then.
Yeah, or in the first like week or so of February. So like basically all my shit is just kind of like front loaded in the like beginning of the year because I had a bunch of projects kind of roll over into the new year, and they're all just like, well, let's just end by like the end of January. And I'm like, okay, I can do that.
We'll just manage.
So yeah, basically the last like 2 weeks, I really just haven't had any like free time. When I'm not working, I'm thinking about working, and all that kind of stuff. I have been, on one hand, very productive. Like I've been doing a lot of stuff. I've started like uploading chapters of my like long fiction project. I've been sending off like miscellaneous job applications, all that kind of stuff. But like I'm being productive largely because I'm trying to put off the other work that I should be doing, which is awful, right? That's like the terrible thing is I can't focus on the thing that I should be doing. So as a result, I end up doing other things. So like yesterday from the day that we were recording, I was writing to meet like a weekly deadline or whatever. And halfway through writing, I was just like, I wonder if there is a way to like make that lenticular bracket thing work, right?
Oh my god!
During this attorney, and it turns out that the software for like programming my keyboard is not robust enough to like have the delayed like things. But the easy fix to that was just to download auto hotkey and then figure out how auto hotkey scripts work, and I did that in like 20 minutes.
Okay.
Just because, and now I can type lenticular brackets really easily.
Okay, you accomplished your goal.
I accomplished it, and I finished the amount of writing that I was supposed to do yesterday. So like I'm in a good place in terms
that's
of
good.
where I am. It just so happens that because all my projects are wrapping at the end of the month, I'm just giga stressed about it. I'm like, it's a lot of words that I'm like staring down the barrel of,
Yeah.
So.
No, I get you.
So yeah, after I'm done with those, I'm probably gonna be putting a hold on that, or at the very least only taking on like one project at a time and not starting another one until like that one's finished, and that kind of stuff.
At least you now have a good idea on how much is too many.
How many is too many? Yeah. I'm also just like it's just like I'm at the point where I've been like going so hard for so long that I'm like kind of feeling like a little burnt out, and like
Yeah.
especially because like the work that I do, the stuff that's not slinging chicken, right, is it's creative work,
Right.
and
Right.
as a result, like it's really easy to reach a point where just like I like there's nothing left in the tank. I'm just like rattling my brain around, and there's like just nothing left up in there. And like anytime something shows up, you kind of like pull it out like a gacha machine, and it like pops out, and you're like, well, okay, all right. I mean, I can work with this, but yeah, just been feeling like I've been running on empty for a little while now. So yeah, I will definitely be peeling back my responsibilities after that, especially because like I haven't even had time to be streaming lately, other than my two regularly scheduled weekend streams. But it also means that because of those streams, I basically have 0 days off. Like I'm always doing work, and it's really not good.
Yeah.
But like obviously I wouldn't be doing the podcast and stuff if I didn't love it. But yeah, like it's a big time sink. Even with the monthly schedule, right? Like we're watching anime every week. On top of having to watch whatever we're watching for the monthly episode, we gotta schedule time to record, find time to actually put that recording into the software and cut it up and make an actual listenable episode. Yeah, it's been rough going. I think you can tell if you look at the release schedule for the episodes the last like couple months. They've been a little like they get there eventually, right? But they've been a little over the past the deadline for when they should be going up, or when I would like them to go up. And that's not ideal, but it's just like that it's because I'm so busy right now. But hopefully I get some respite.
Yes.
When this episode goes up, I should be on a small like household trip up to the snowy mountains. It's gonna be a little trip just with me and my housemates. And that's nice. It was originally going to be a bigger trip with some more of our friends, but this winter, kind of leading into the new year, you have the new variant, and it's like way more transmissible, and more people are getting it. And cases were like way up on the rise, right? So we just peeled it back, and we're just like, well, I mean, it's probably safest just to have it be a household trip, which is obviously sad. I want to see my friends. I want to hang out with them, and like I see my housemates like every day. So the only difference will be like there's snow on the ground, and like we won't have Philip with us, which is like sad.
Philip.
Yeah, but my parents will be watching him, and obviously I think they miss him dearly. So
Aww.
well, a little time with grandpa, grandma isn't gonna go awry, I don't think. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. What have you been up to?
I also have a large work project wrapping up at the end of this month / beginning of the next month. So
okay, yeah, same boat.
Yeah, but I have finished the postcards. They are currently in an envelope, and there's a stamp on it. I'll be mailing it to you tomorrow. And then we'll be able to send them out to our patrons. So that'll be fun.
Nice.
I mean, that's it. That's actually it. It's that and watching
the
anime and
postcards work. Yeah, no, I feel it. I don't know what it is. The New Year's like it's supposed to be like a time of like rest and rejuvenation, and it always like in anime it's always just like, yeah, it's like the Christmas season. You're gonna get all the time off, and I'm just like, I'm not familiar with this concept. I'm not familiar with this concept at all. Where's my cozy winter holiday season? My holiday season was just full of stress.
stranded on a mountain in snow.
Yeah, God. But yeah, yeah, it is one of those things where like we haven't it hasn't been so long since we recorded. It's like sometimes it's like depending on the scheduling quirks, it's like 2 months between like recordings, and we're just like, what happened between like and it feels like time is like simultaneously going way too slowly and way too fast, because I'm just like, oh my god, it's like the end of the month again. Oh, the new year literally just started, and we're like a 12th of the way through it, and I don't like that.
I don't like that either, actually, now that you say that.
Yeah, it's like, what happened? Where did it go? Where's all the time going?
It's gone. Before we realized it passed by.
Yeah, I mean, time flies when you're fighting for your life, I suppose. But yeah, let's talk about the wrap up. It's gonna be really funny if I don't have the sampler up.
You better have it up before you post this.
I think I'm going to try to edit the sampler first and then the wrap up, just so that I can just so that it will make sense when the episodes come out.
I swear, if I see the sampler go up after the wrap up, you will be getting messages from me.
Yeah. Yeah, my bad. That's just another quirk of being terminally busy. The sampler episode was 76.5. We're on episode 79. This is pretty dire, honestly. This is a new level of putting stuff off. Listen, I love making the podcast. It just takes a long time. I have to sit down for like 3 hours and just like make my way through it. Like, it's just, it's getting harder and harder to find time in my day. Like, I'll like wake up and I'll be like, oh my god, where did it go? And it turns out I'm just like sleeping. I'm just sleeping it all away. I'm just like, I'm so tired, I have to go to sleep. I'm so tired, I have to sleep. Like, the other day I was trying to get some extra sleep in, or not get some extra sleep, but like essentially get some sleep, get up early, right? And instead of getting up early and like having like 2 or 3 hours to do some work in the morning, I got up 30 minutes before I was supposed to get up anyway. And that meant I ended up sleeping for like 11 hours total, which is just like, my body clearly needs some rest.
That's what happened to me last weekend too.
Yeah, like listen, I've been churning out content left, right,
bam, bam, bam.
And I know you can't see the hand motions I'm making, but I did just accidentally reverse that and move my right hand when I said left, and then my left hand when I said right. But, like, yeah. Anyway, I'm taking a break. I'm gonna take a break after my projects are done. At least in regards to freelancing. Since I have a retail job and stuff. It would be nice if I could do one or the other. Obviously, it's like I can get some work done at my work, so it is sort of efficient, but it's not really. Because when you're I don't know when customers are gonna come in, and I don't know when I'll have time to work on that and stuff. So it kind of just ends up like it's hard to get into a writing flow. But yeah, break definitely. Shall we talk about anime?
Let's do it.
Okay, so well, let's start by talking about the Heike Story, which I didn't watch, but apparently you did.
I watched all of it.
Okay, that's fair. It sounds like it was good.
I did not want to let it slip through our thingy, so I figured I'd make some time to watch it, and it was excellent. I would only recommend it if you are down for a serious historical drama. If you're just looking for some anime fluff, this ain't it. But if you are looking for something with like actual like solid like historical, like it's based on the tale of Heike, which I haven't personally read, so I don't know like how closely it follows or anything like that. but I know the artwork is absolutely stunning, and it pretty closely follows like screen paintings that I've seen of the Tale of Heike. So,
nice.
Yes, the atmosphere is so on point. The music, the storytelling, all of it is very, very like it's so juicy good if you love that history stuff, you know? I will say that because of, you know, the time period and the type of story that it is, that you could get lost very quickly if you don't pay attention to names, specifically the names of the characters, but also of the families and the locations they're talking about, because there's a lot of political intrigue that's going on, and thereby you're going to need to know the relatives of a very specific family, but then also like how they deal with other families and stuff like that. But there is a through line plot of the tale of Biwa, who is a Biwa player, and her story and how it like threads through all of this political stuff is so good. It's very well done. I would say that it's one of the few works that I've come across that actually teaches you why it's important to read or witness or watch through an entire story, even if you can predict the entire ending, right? I feel like there's, you know, especially in our modern day age where there's just a ton of content out there, and basically if we can see what's coming or whatever, we get bored and then we might drop it or whatever, right? If it's too predictable. But in this case, there's like a ton of meaning in as to why Biwa, who can actually see the future and knows exactly what's going to happen at a certain point during the story, that it's important that she be there to witness it. And so I think that's such a beautiful way to tell a historical tale, you know?
Yeah. I love anything Science Saru puts out. Science Saru is Masaki Yuasa's studio. This one was not directed by Yuasa. I think he's taking like a break or something. I think he's on hiatus. Which it makes sense because like over the past like 5 years or so, he's just put like a shit ton of anime. But yeah, this is actually directed by Naoko Yamada, who is so she actually works at KyoAni, and she directed K-On! And Tamako Market. So yeah, real A-list both in terms of voice actors, because you have, you know, Aoi Yuki, Takahiro Sakurai, you know, but also just like production staff, like really, really big names worked on this, and it looks, from like the episode or two that we watched, really good. I might go back and watch it. Thank you so much for taking a bullet and watching it. Our time.
It wasn't a bullet. It was very enjoyable for me.
Oh, I know. It's just like. It's one of those things where we've very well gotten to the point where it's hard for me to actually have time to watch the extra stuff that I'm just like, oh, I'll watch this.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, you know how that goes. It used to be a lot easier for me when I was like, you know, living with my parents and I didn't have to pay rent and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that we have some experience with this, because I wanted this to be good. And yes. I am happy to hear that it is. Yeah.
Highly recommend if you're down for historical drama, for sure.
Nice. All right, let's talk about Sakugan. So Sakugan, if you listened to our sample episode, is basically kind of like a father-daughter mech robot underground road trip. So it's kind of made in Abyss-y, kind of Gurren Lagann-y, kind of some other sort of hodgepodge stuff mixed in there. I think this show was a lot of fun. In general, I think that the writing of it was fine. I think that the directing and pacing of it was a little janky, especially in the middle bits.
Yeah.
Because the first couple episodes are very fun, very exciting. There's lots of stuff that's happening. It really kind of starts to dip in the middle.
Yes.
And it's which is kind of a shame, because like the concepts are interesting and there's a lot of scenes which stand out as being pretty good. but a lot of the stuff around it just kind of feels like they're just stringing you along until the next like important thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder, so basically if you guys don't mind spoilers, which we already say that we're not a spoiler friendly podcast, the end of the season kind of leaves off as like and then they continue their adventure kind of deal. And
Well,
I
yeah.
wonder if there was just too much story for them to pack into one season. Because I feel like there were so many places during this show where they could have tightened up the writing by a lot. Or at the very least smoothed over what they had and not made it so messy. Because you understand, you see exactly what kind of plot points they were trying to hit. Like, this is the episode where the father-daughter fight, but then they get along at the end. They come to an understanding. But it's very janky along the way.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Yeah.
It feels it's interesting because it feels very like clunky all the way through. Even though I think it had a pretty standout first episode. The first episode felt really like it worked really well. But it kind of feels like a lot of the rest of the series it wasn't really sure how to incorporate all of its disparate pieces. Like there's a lot of like the fact that the basis of it is like the road trip and getting to see places, like interesting places, and the travel in between. And all that kind of stuff is, in my opinion, not as well developed as it could have been.
Yes.
Because, like, the original city that they start in, Pinyin, is really cool.
Yes.
It has this very, like, clear aesthetic to it. It's this sort of, like, Chinatown-esque thing, obviously, because it's called Pinyin. But, it has a very clear aesthetic to it. It felt like it had some character. At least the sort of artistic styling of the backgrounds and the environments felt like really solid. And they feel a lot more generic kind of going forward, except for a few places like when they're in the factory, that felt really unique and cool. When they're on the like big ship, that's pretty cool. But aside from that, a lot of it is kind of disappointingly bland to me, which is like a problem because, in my opinion, a story like this is a travel story, right? A travel narrative like this. Obviously, there's an extra layer of setup to it where it's about, the father-daughter relationship, and it's about getting to the surface world, right? So that's like the kind of central mystery that runs along. But at the same time, because the basis of the show was meant to be this travel road trip show, it should feel like they're more grounded. Sorry. It should feel like they're more grounded in actual locations, even if those locations are fantastical.
Yes.
Because like most of the other cities that they go to are like they're like basically like vague pastiches of like places. They're like, oh, this is the like Italy city where they have pizza and stuff.
Right.
But there's nothing really that indicates that to you other than like the fact that they open it and it's just like Italy, right? They open a map and it just says like Italy, and there's like, oh, the pizza is good here, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they could have fleshed that out a lot more, and it would have been more interesting because like the concept of having these underground cities and people living in them and like having their own kind of cultures is cool, but if you don't develop that aspect, it falls a little bit flat. It feels like they're just kind of in random places that don't really matter. I would say the same for the environments between the cities. A lot of them are pretty whatever, right? It's like, this is the desert place, and this is the ice place, and this is the big, like, there's a lot of potential for really cool environments, and we get a little bit of that at the beginning when they're like going to like they're like getting the little crystals that like are in the shape of flowers, right? That kind of stuff. That felt like interesting and unique. The ice zone felt okay, right? It was like all right, But
I think if they had continued, I mean, obviously what they had put into the first episode with all the care and the world building, that it could have been a really cool show. But it just kind of feels like they left a lot on the table.
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing for a show like this is to give a sense of place.
Yes.
And after you leave the first couple episodes, you kind of like really, really lose it in all of the other stuff. And like there is some stuff that's like still pretty good, obviously. There's some intrigue with like the revelations you get. They're like, oh, like you're not really you're not really like his child. You're not connected by blood. You're a giga child. Right?
Yes.
And they're like, all giga children must be eliminated or whatever, right? And like you're like, oh, cool. That's like that's interesting. You know, there's some mystery here. But at the same time, you get the reinforcement of the like we're family trope, right? Like really ties it up where it's just like you know, like we may not be like you may not be my kin, but like we're still family, right? And I think they do a pretty effective job of that, at least in the last episode.
Yeah.
But other than that, like it feels like it's kind of like just like scrambling.
Yeah.
Feels like really disorganized. Like they're not really sure what's going on. Yeah, it would be really cool if we got a show that was like about the places, and about how they interact with the places. But you know, it's like fun. I would say it's a fun anime to watch.
Yeah, it's fine. I'd say a pretty light show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Demon Slayer Mugen Train arc television. I watched the movie for this like months ago, so I don't remember what is different between the movie and the television series, other than the first episode that gives you the like little setup.
Right. I think that's the most significant difference.
I think so. I think everything else is just
right. We heard from our friend who was watching with us that there are some scenes that they redid, but you know, just like for the television format. And even though they didn't have to, you know, they could have just split up the movie.
I would right. I would just say in general, if you've seen the movie, you don't need to watch this
Correct.
arc.
Right.
If you haven't seen it, probably just watch the television version. You know, you get a cool new opening and ending. It works fine as a TV anime. It didn't feel like super weird or anything.
No.
In general, I would say that this arc is it's interesting because the primary antagonist of the arc is the like train demon. But he's like kind of a nothing bad guy. Like he's basically just there to give the actual characters exposition, which is fine. I think that's fine. It's a bit of a departure from the like last big sort of arc where you get a lot of focus on the demons and how they ended up that way, right?
Yeah.
But in all fairness, I would say the next arc, the Entertainment District arc, is it kind of goes back to that. So I think it's fine to have one arc between those two arcs where it's not really about the demon. You know, he's just like a bad guy, right?
Yeah, I think that's it lends itself well to the whole movie format too, and that's why they to a film. Yeah.
And he gives the characters a lot of room to develop, or at the very least for us to see their kind of motivations and backgrounds. Like the fact that we get to see Rengoku's dreams about his father, the fact that we get to see Tanjiro dreaming of his family again, right? All that kind of stuff is the emotional core of this arc.
Right.
And then you have the secondary antagonist who is I don't remember his name. I'm really bad with names, but it's the one voiced by Akira Ishida, who obviously spoilers kills Rengoku, right? And that I would say is the real kind of like gotcha gut punch of the arc. But I mean at
He
this point
actually
kind
got
of
a gut punch.
everybody who knows, right? And I would say that I really liked this arc, especially kind of at the end there. It like really kind of ramps up. You get this really cool fight scene. It works really well as a movie, but I think it works fine on television as well.
Yeah. I think you could choose to watch either or. You don't necessarily need to watch both because they cover the same ground.
Yeah. I would not recommend watching both,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be treading over the same stuff again, which is like
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked. Obviously, I like a lot about Demon Slayer. I've talked a lot about Demon Slayer. I like that the central kind of conflict at the very end between Rengoku and the upper six demon is about like the kind of inevitability of like human mortality and like how humans are so fragile and like they work for all of this they work their entire lives and then they can potentially just like lose it all because they become old or they like can die, right? And I like a lot because it really feels very cohesive, especially when the upper six demon runs away from the sun and Tanjiro is like yelling and he's just like, like, you demons are always fighting us when in the darkness when you have the advantage and you never fight us in the sunlight, you're cowards, right? He's like, we're just weak humans, right? And I love that kind of stuff. I love any anime that puts like these like really scary immortal creatures with like very like powerful capabilities and juxtaposes them to like these like weak squishy humans that like if they get hurt they're gonna be hurt for a long time, right? I love that, right? I love the tension between what it means to like defeat evil and overcome like hardship. And at the same time, keeping true to like being human. I think that's all like very good, and I think it works really well in this. I will say this. It might feel a little cheap to have Rengoku like be introduced and then like killed in the same arc, basically. But I will say that Demon Slayer in general moves very quickly. And also Rengoku has the most metal death of like any character.
I actually liked how they put his entire arc into the one arc. Because it feels that much more. You feel the loss that much more acutely when he's gone. Because it's like I just met the guy and I felt attached to him because he was being cool, and then he died.
Well, it's also like it fits with the kind of like theme of his character, right?
Yes,
in general,
yes.
right?
Right.
It's actually really interesting if you look at Rengoku as the flame pillar and what that kind of means and represents.
Right.
Because in a way, the flame pillar kind of represents what it means to be human. Obviously, like fire is something that inevitably will burn out, and the brighter it burns, the faster it will burn out. Right? So, like Rengoku becomes this kind of metaphor for the strength of humanity, where like he's so like selfless and so willing to protect those around him that he has trained his entire life. And even at the end of his life, he's willing to hold on to that conviction, right? And like, it would be so hard for me to name a more metal death than for Rengoku to just be fighting this like extremely strong demon and then have like his like a fist punch through his entire body, and he's like, no, you know what? What if I clench my entire body so hard that you are stuck? I will keep your arm inside my body until the sun comes up and you die.
Yeah, I couldn't cut through your neck, so we're doing it this way. And he just holds him there. that the guy had to literally detach his arm to get away from Rengoku.
The only way he like gets away alive is by detaching his own arms, right? Something that isn't a big problem if you're a demon that can regrow their arms. And it really solidifies this sort of central thesis about demons being very like powerful physically, you know, at the these immortal beings at the pinnacle of power itself, right? And at the same time, how fragile that power is, and how like afraid they are, and how like cowardly they are, right? Because anytime the situation in any way like begins to favor the weak, squishy human beings, they just run away and they wait, right? So I think like the Mugen Train arc is like really, really great for both establishing the threat of the upper six, the general temperament of them, as well as like showing you Rengoku, who is like this basically kind of like the he's like the de facto pillar, right? He's like he stands there as like the shining beacon of mankind, and the boys can only just like stand there helplessly as like, because they can't even like help him, right? So yeah, and I will say this, I won't spoil too much about what happens later in the series because I have read the end of the manga, but I mean the themes that Rengoku introduces as a character definitely carry on throughout the entire show, and they actually get built upon in really cool ways. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like Demon Slayer is like just such good television still. Like it's such good anime. You get a lot of like really unique stuff that happens too. Like there's this moment when he's like reaching for his sword, and you get these cuts of like his father like doing the same, and in this like black and white. It's a very like samurai period piece. It's very cool. There's a lot of intersection between like memory and like the present, right? And I think it's displayed in a really cool way. I think Demon Slayer is very well directed. It's very, very solid. Yeah, and it continues to be good. We're watching the Entertainment District arc now. It continues to be really good.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. All right. Would you like to talk about Takt Op Destiny?
Takt Op Destiny was a crazy show. I still don't have a complete understanding of everything that happened, to be honest.
Me neither. It felt very fast, like they crammed a lot into 12 episodes. It's like a self-contained show in 12 episodes or whatever. It might be a shill for a mobile game. Nobody even really knows anymore. But I'll say this. This show is like a treat to watch. And I would highly recommend watching it if you want just kind of a wild ride with some really good animation attached to it. Lamb is the character designer for the anime, and like there are few character designers who are like as like kind of out there and weird and fun and unique as Lamb. Like all the characters have these like the music artists all have these like this wild eye makeup. It's a lot of fun, especially when you get to kind of the later characters who are like the other antagonists who get to wear much crazier clothing. All that kind of stuff is like, it's very fun to watch from a design standpoint, because you're like, oh, these are like really cool, unique designs, right?
Yeah.
The animation is really good all the way through. Definitely good all the way through. I would say that the story is a little all over the place. It goes a lot of places, and it happens at you really fast. And I'm not sure how much a lot of it stands up, but there is a lot that does stand up. There's some like really there's some decent like emotional cores and beats that happen in the story. The fact that you have Cosette and Destiny, and like the kind of whole arc about that. You have Lenny and Titan. That really comes around at the end and feels like a complete like arc. So that all feels very cohesive and like actually it works. It is very fast. Like a lot happens in 12 episodes. Almost too much, maybe. And obviously there's the secondhand American aesthetic a la Final Fantasy 15, which I think is extremely funny. Just the like, what is America? Well, you see it's vintage cars and diners, and then also New York.
And lots of desert somewhere in between.
Lots of deserts, which I mean that's pretty accurate, but like yeah.
They did go to Louisiana for a bit too.
They did go to Louisiana. I think what I would say in general about this show is I would just give the first episode a watch and then see how you feel about it. Like the setup is kind of bonkers. It doesn't like really matter that much. It's like it's just weird, right? It's just like aliens came and they hate music, so now they're gonna kill us all.
Yeah.
The motivations of the... Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say they introduce a lot of wild things in the beginning that kind of throw you off, and you're like, okay, I'll watch more to find out more. But then they just keep introducing more things and more crazy stuff happens. So I would say that the first episode is a pretty good idea for the rest of the show.
Yeah. I will say that the central antagonist is I don't know. The bad guy is like the final bad guy is like kind of whatever. Honestly,
yeah, I don't really care
not gonna
about
lie
the
to you.
final bad guy.
It felt like a bit of a mess. Like, do you remember Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress and their like completely throwaway like last bad guy? It felt a lot like that, where it's just like this guy's just bad for the sake of being evil.
Yes, I felt like he was just. I mean, they did try to give him.
They tried, but it like didn't amount to anything.
It didn't feel like it fleshed out in a way that felt significant to me.
It did. Well, it did. It felt like it just didn't make any sense. He was just like, my master plan is to destroy humanity. Wait, no, just kidding. Then what was your plan? My plan was to gather them all in one place, and like I'm not sure if none of this makes any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. Turn your brain off and watch this show, okay? Okay. Yes. Right at the end there, it's just kind of a mess, I would say. But
yeah.
But there's enough going for it that I would generally recommend it. Especially if you want something that's like nice on the eyes, right? The animation is like pretty stellar.
Yeah, I didn't hate the show, and it didn't offend me in any way. I wish it was a bit of a clearer story, but overall, it's not like it's not a terrible show by any means.
It felt a lot like they were writing it as it was coming out, which I think was probably partially what was happening, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the very least, they just like really rushed the ending. It felt like there were just a lot of things that came up, and not all of them got resolved in extremely satisfying ways. The motivations of the central antagonist basically make zero sense. Like, I don't know. When I try to piece it together in my brain, it's just like it just kind of refuses. I'm just like,
yeah,
this show was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was generally fine. I wouldn't watch it again, even though I feel like if I watched it again, I might absorb more of the plot and maybe understand some things now that I've got the context of the whole show, but I'm not interested enough to, I guess, watch it again. But the first watch is fine. It's not a bad show.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's stellar, but I would say that it's a solid watch. Especially if you just kind of want to watch, like, you know, turn your brain off and watch cute anime girls fight each other, right? Okay, let's talk about Ousama Ranking, which we probably will not discuss too much because it is still airing. But
I'm so glad that it's still airing.
I was gonna say, but this show is really good.
I would say that this show is probably my favorite of this season.
Yeah,
If
this
I were to-
show is easily the favorite of my
Yeah.
season, and very in contention for my favorite show that came out last year, even though it's still airing. Obviously. I recommended it to a friend who watched one episode and then proceeded to watch the next 11, just on the spot.
Good.
But yeah. So Ousama Ranking, or Ranking of Kings, is we talked a little bit about how cool it was at the sort of end of the first episode when you get the little the duel, and it's like, oh, it's getting really spicy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that it absolutely does not disappoint going forward. This show is basically everything that I wasn't sure what the show was going to be about upon watching the trailers, but actually watching the show, it's so engaging.
It's crazy how a storybook looking show that feels like it should be for children can be so full of twists and turns that you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. And the next episode, oh my god, that's crazy. All of the revelations that they put together and they kind of pace throughout, and you don't ever feel like you're on that wild of a roller coaster where you can't follow what's happening. You follow exactly what's happening. It's just the way that they structured the story is extremely engaging.
Yeah. I would say the storybook aesthetic of it, it kind of lures you into this false sense of security about what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
It gives you kind of you have a sort of impression of what it's going to be like. But in general, the actual inner workings of the anime, the stuff that kind of makes it move, and all the characters and their writing and the dialogue, right? It all is actually really, really, really well put together. The characters have actual real depth to them. They have motivations and wants and needs. They do things that aren't necessarily in their best interest or in the best interest of other people, but they do it because they want to, right? It feels like the characters actually are written to be characters, and that they're moving the story in a way that makes sense, right? The world is larger than life. It is this storybook fantasy world, and it really works within that setting because you have stuff like a big eternal fire pit where the vampire king lives, right? The character designs are all super unique,
Yes.
and no show looks like this, but it pulls it off so well. The animation is super good. Everything feels cohesive, right? The thing is that when writing a story, it's not necessarily about making everything make sense from a logistical standpoint, but it's about making things make sense in their own worlds, and this show absolutely does, right?
Yes.
The reason a lot of movies and anime can feel like they don't really make sense, or they're not realistic, is because they're not, or they're either drawing from real life, or they're not consistent with the way that the world works, right? So it's all about that consistency in how the world works, in giving a sense of immersion or verisimilitude, right? So I would say that Ranking of Kings pulls this off in spades. It's so good.
Yes.
All of the stuff that happens in it is so unique. It's just a solidly written show too.
Yeah.
You actually care about the main characters and the secondary characters and the tertiary characters. There's a lot that happens where you're just like, oh damn, I'm really invested in what's happening. There's a guy who his whole thing is just the king boss was just like, okay, now defend my new wife, and he's just like, why? But I was the captain of the guard. Why would you do this to me? And he's like, do you think I made a mistake? And he's just like, huh. But then he realizes that the second queen is actually a good person. She's just a little awkward. And then he's just like, I would die for you.
I love that guy.
Yeah, and like the thing is that like it's hard to pin down a like bad guy, right? It's not that kind of story where there's like just like obviously a bad guy. There are people who are doing things because of their own motivations and wants and needs, right? There's people who obviously are doing bad things, but are doing it out of a sense of that is the right thing, or that is like a maladaptation that they've kind of like grown into, right?
There is a shocking amount of intrigue in this show that you don't ever. There's always like another layer to what a character is doing, it feels like. And so the story does a great job of flipping from one character's perspective to another, and then keeping up with all of their motivations, but then also showing new sides of them depending on the character's perspective, right? So from the main character's perspective, he was scared of his mom, but then later on you find out, oh, his mom was doing this stuff because she actually does care about him, and then you learn her motivations too, and it does a great job of doing that with actually a really large cast, and expanding cast at that.
Yeah, definitely. Just the fact that they are able to keep track of all of these characters and how they interact with each other. It's like it's a very tightly written story.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like it works because the characters are acting in a way that makes sense to their characters, right?
Yes.
So you have like Miranjo, who is doing this terrible thing, right? Where she's reincarnating King Boss into the body of his son, and King Boss has already like signed away like Boji's like physical power to become the strongest man and the strongest king alive, right? But then when he's reincarnated, he's just like, so I've sacrificed another son, right? So you can tell that he's kind of like grown into being a better person in his years, and his perspective is not the same as it was when he made that deal, and he obviously regrets it, right? And now he's just like, this plan to assassinate my wife, I will covertly maneuver it so that the guy defending my wife will not die against like 4 beasts, but instead he can fight 3 of them, right? So there's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of conflicting motivations, and a lot of, honestly, like a lot of intrigue that happens. And then you have the like central sort of relationship between Boji, character who has long since felt very like isolated and outcast, and like has been made that way because of his father, right? And the mistakes that he's made in the past. And then you have Kage, and Boji finds a friend, and they like actually, it begins with Kage just being like, hey, give me all your money, right? But then he's like actually like, then he's actually just like, oh damn, I would die for you. And they become best bros, and it actually like, it feels so good. There's like characters developing and like growing into, it's like all at once it is this coming of age story between Boji and Kage, and like this like political intrigue story, and this like this political intrigue story about the ranking of kings, and then like this interpersonal story between King Boss and Miranjo, and Queen Healing, right? So like there's just a lot of stuff that happens, and it actually works. It actually fits together and works like clockwork. It's so so well put together.
Yes. I'm extremely excited to watch more. I'm so glad they're continuing it like immediately. So
oh yeah. I'm super excited to watch more of it. So yeah. Anything else about Ousama Ranking?
I highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't already.
Yes. If you want a story with well-written characters, and like very endearing ones at that, like we got redemption for fucking Snake Guy. I was ready to hate Snake Guy. I hated Snake Guy. And then they just give us the backstory and we're like, god damn it. I have to like Snake Guy now. God. Snake Guy?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Even Snake Guy.
Yeah. Like the legendary swordsman guy. Like he fucking pushes Boji into the eternal fire pit.
Yes.
And you're still just like, I don't 100% hate you still.
No, they managed to have him win you over just a little bit.
So, Ousama Ranking is so compelling. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You watched 2 things that I didn't watch. Well, you technically watched 3 things, but the next 2 things on the list.
Yes, the next 2 things are stuff that I watched, so I'll go over it rather briefly. One was Sankaku Mado no Sotukawa wa Yoru, the tri-cornered night of the tri-cornered window, I think is the translation. Apparently, I didn't know this starting out the show, but the manga was about 10 volumes, and they crammed all of it into this one season.
How is that even possible?
They did it. I don't. So needless to say, so I started reading the manga as well, because I finished the show and I was like, I wonder what they cut out. A lot of, I would say, the charm of the show gets kind of left to the side, because a lot of the charm is from like the little interpersonal like character interactions and stuff, like just kind of like the side fluff, but it's secondary to the main plot. And so what they kept was the main plot, which is intriguing. It's not like uninteresting, and I think they stay faithful to it, because at least from what I've read so far, the manga, I haven't finished it yet, it's been pretty faithful.
Nice.
But yeah, it's labeled as like a boys' love show, because there is oh my god. The first, I would say at least 3 chapters of maybe like 6 chapters of the manga, and the first episode of the show are just completely and utterly laden with sexual innuendos.
Oh my god.
But like there's not actual like relations happening, quote unquote, it's BL, not a yaoi. But I would say overall the show after that pretty heavily becomes like a interesting, spooky, supernatural story with the relationship, quote unquote, like kind of like developing in the far background. Like it's just there, right? It's not the focus of the show for the most part. Most of the focus of the show is actually the 2 characters learning how to freaking trust each other. So It's kind of hard to have a romance for them right off the bat if they're just trying to learn about each other, right? And so I actually really like the supernatural elements in the show. It is like a horror themed type of show, so it does get kind of like ooh. But I would say like I wouldn't show this to a child, so it's not like, baby horror, but it is like maybe like a level 2 out of 10, right? Level 1 being like you could show it to like kid friendly horror, right? I would say a 10 for me would probably be like PT or something as horrific as that. Like that was probably the scariest thing I've ever experienced was that demo. Yeah. Overall, it's an alright show. It's not bad. I would recommend reading it over watching it, just because you get a lot more of the characters, and they're very charming, and they're really well fleshed out, in my opinion, in the manga.
Okay.
So yeah.
See,
next,
that's like sort of how I feel about Blue Period, which we watched the first episode of way back and just kind of concluded that you should probably just read the manga.
Yeah,
as nice as an anime adaptation is, like the manga is actually something special.
For sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. So the last thing that I watched was Muteking, the Dancing Hero. I just kind of wanted to watch it just because it had a cute aesthetic, and I wanted something to kind of like watch while I was drawing. And it does have a very, very delightful aesthetic. I think it's very cute and poppy. It's apparently a reboot of a show called Muteking, the Dashing Warrior, from 1980, which is crazy. I would say like it maintains its very cute aesthetic and lovely character designs throughout the show. The animation like is clearly on a budget. They render the main hero as a 3D CGI dancing guy.
Of course.
Okay, maybe a fan of the series can explain to me why he doesn't actually look like the main character when he transforms. Like the main character transforms with music to the dancing hero, but it's not like a 1-to-1 transformation where you get to see the main character and then it becomes him in a superhero outfit. He becomes a grown man with a chiseled chin and nose. Like everything is different.
You're right. I'm looking at the promotional. I'm looking at the promotional art, and you're completely right. Okay, does he speak differently when he's in
yes,
dancing?
Yes, it's a different voice actor and everything. I think.
Okay, it might just be one of those like things where he's just becoming someone else.
That's what I think. I think he becomes someone else.
I'm also looking at this promotional material, and the poster has the Golden Gate Bridge with a rainbow crossing over it.
Yes. There is the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh my god, wait, I just found art of the original Muteking, and oh my god, this is wild. It looks extremely like 70s 80s.
Yeah.
Like extremely. This looks like a Korean like a Korean like comic series that I used to read. It's bizarre, like for children.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this show appears to be geared towards children, but wow.
It is definitely geared towards children, and I would say because of that, the plot is very shallow. It's like very a very light watch. I just like it just gets very messy towards the end. They have a nice large cast, and they're each memorable in their own way, which I love. But they don't do a whole lot with them. They just kind of exist in the world. And so I wish that the show kind of like pushed their nice colorful cast more, and maybe wrote a more cohesive story, because it's very much like a Monster of the Week kind of show. But then at the end, it becomes like the big, like climactic, messy finale where, you know, one character betrays another, and then they go on the evil side, and then they fight in some innocuous space, and then there's a dance off at the end, which is great. Yeah, I think if you want something that is like an easy watch to just kind of put in the background, it's fine as a show because the music is actually quite good. I liked it a lot. And the aesthetic, like I said, is nice. It's just got not much of a story going on, I'd say.
Okay, well, that might be it then. A little short, little sweet.
Mm-hmm.
We, I mean, it's kind of a consequence of just not really watching a lot. And the season kind of ending a while ago. That being said, though, what's interesting is because the anime that we're watching has like or that we're keeping an eye on has kind of reduced this season, because a lot of this season, the winter season, the one that we haven't recorded anything for yet, a lot of the winter season is sequels to stuff that we haven't been watching. So we're kind of off the hook, honestly. And as like scuffed as the fall sampler coming out so late is, we're weirdly in this position where we're not behind we're kind of behind sort of the curve on episodes, like seasonal episodes, but at the same time we're actually kind of back on track for watching the seasonal stuff, which, thank God. I felt like we were in the hole for like 8 years because of how absolutely packed last year was. Oh my God. Yeah. Looking forward to a chill season where I get to watch a new season of Demon Slayer and stuff, you know?
Yeah, you know what? Here's hoping.
Here's hoping. I mean, there's obviously stuff that we are going to be watching. I won't spoil it too much
Yes.
because like the sampler is going to come out like immediately. So, you know, just like if you're curious, like just listen to the sampler. But okay, little short, little sweet. But that's it for us on the fall 2021 season.
Yay!
All right. Well, shall we wrap up then?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Who are you and where can we find you on the internet?
I am Renu, also known as Swan. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn or Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Twitch, all that at swandrawn. I have finished playing Resident Evil 1 Remake. It was an extremely good game. I highly recommend it for anyone who wants to just play a game that encapsulates the horror experience. It's extremely well done. The remake, of course, makes the graphics look amazing. And now I'm back on the art grind, so that's what I've been doing on my stream. So if you want to go and check that out, you can follow me there.
Very nice.
What about you?
You can find me all the places at Literal Soup. I am going to be, most of what I'm doing right now is work, but once I'm clearing that backlog of work, I'll start streaming more regularly again. But you can find me on, Saturday where Renu and I play Ace Attorney. We're on the very last case of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles Game 1. So that's interesting. I have some thoughts about that game in general, but I've been enjoying playing through it. And then on Sundays, I usually do a tier list stream where me and my two friends talk about Dungeons and Dragons subclasses and how good they are in comparison to each other. So we just did the cleric one, which will have been last week, since that's when the episode comes out. But no stream on that one this week because I will be away on a trip. Obviously, it's more stuff that I have to do, but I like it, so I do it. It's nice to have just like a thing to look forward to every week. I have a lot of fun doing it, even if at the end of a 6.5 hour stream, my voice feels like it's going to fall apart. But that's what cough drops and stuff are for. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I do a lot of voice stuff in general. So it became kind of a necessary purchase, a necessary investment to get some stuff to soothe my voice between those things, and trying not to talk too much when I'm not at work and stuff. But yeah, that's all the stuff that I will be up to. And podcast will keep chugging along. We have something very special for you just in the next couple weeks, but also next month's episode is going to be pretty fun. But it's going to be really funny because the sampler will come out, and then this episode will come out, and then hopefully the sampler for the next season will come out then. Yep.
We're going to have a string of content for you, baby.
Yep. You might have been feeling like the content has been a little dry recently, but worry not. We have many an episode coming, like a deluge of episodes. They really shouldn't be coming out in this release order, or like at this rate, but you know what? Whatever. Just for you. It's just special, just for you. All right. Our opening is by Scotchy Network, and our ending is by Takuma Okada. And the patrons we are thanking this month are Evan Williams, Magpie Mirror Test, Claire, Frostfall, Shondao, Cherubel, Dylan Boats, and Undead Uncanny. Thank you so much for your continued support.
Yay, thank you.
If you are pledging $5 or more, please update your address on the Patreon stuff so that we can send you a postcard, because otherwise I will be lost.
Yep.
All right. I suppose then we will See you next time.
See you next time.
さようなら。また明日ね。